Welcome to the All Ambient podcast, where we dig into the creative process and explore the minds of some of the finest ambient musicians out there. My name is Mike Graff. I make music as Dear Gravity, and welcome to the launch of All Ambient Labs. Yes, that is correct. All Ambient has begun to roll out our online course series that we're calling All Ambient Labs. And our very first labs course, you are not going to want to miss it, is none other than Ben Tatlow himself on Music Business 101. If you've tuned into this podcast at any point, you of course have heard the deep experience and wisdom from Ben on a multitude of different topics, scenarios, circumstances. Ben's incredible at what he does. And so who better to walk through some of the ins and outs and helping jump over some of the hurdles that one can have as an independent musician, as an independent artist. If you're trying to get things going in the music industry and the streaming and the licensing world, and has a bunch of great stuff to say about that. But perhaps just as exciting as Ben's labs course that come out is the fact that we have courses that are coming out, period, which is just great. Ben has more in the future that will be coming. Also, there are some other very familiar faces that you will see with some great courses coming. Kirk, Marshall, Chris Bartels, and myself have some great entries into the All Ambient Labs department that we can't wait to show you real soon. We'll roll it out piece by piece, but we wanted to give you a little glimpse inside of what an All Ambient Labs course feels like content-wise, and also that Ben's Labs course is out now. Music Business 101 is out now. And so if you head to the link in the show notes, you will be able to navigate right over to that. Right now, Ben's Labs course is at a special launch price. We dropped it down almost 20% below what it's typically going to sell at for sort of this launch period, which is great. So you can get a great discount on it if you're looking at checking that out. And that price is just automatically built in already right now. But for the people who have faithfully been following the All Ambient podcast, for those of you who are part of our Discord community as well. And we wanted to give an extra little something to you as a thank you for following along and for supporting us from the very get-go. So you can use the code BENLAUNCH. That's BENLAUNCH. BENLAUNCH to get an additional 20% off of the course. So if you stack the launch discount on top of the Ben Launch promo code, you can get yourself a pretty great deal on this, which is just priceless info. Ben is great and he delivers it really clearly. You're literally not going to want to miss it. So make sure that you follow the link in the show notes and check it out. But without any further ado, we're going to give you a little taste of Ben's All Ambient Labs course, Music Business 101.
As someone who runs an independent ambient label, I'm perhaps a little biased about this section, but I do think that working with independent labels can be a super smart way as part of a greater whole of building your exposure to multiple different audiences, and as such generating a larger fan base of your music and what you are all about as an artist. So in this section, I want to talk about some recommendations that I have in terms of working with independent labels and how to best approach that from an artist perspective so that you get the best out of that partnership. And the first thing really is just the mindset of, hey, if you are signing over 50% of your royalties, say, the label needs to, at the very, very least, be doubling what you would be able to achieve on your own. And so I know it's not always quite as straightforward as that. And it's not just about streaming revenues per se, but having that in your mind when you're starting out, that whatever label you are working with needs to be able to at least double, hopefully a lot more than double, what you are able to achieve on your own is a really good place to start. So it's always really good to be aware of what the deal is on the table, and don't be afraid to kind of ask that up front so that you have clarity before going into a whole bunch of conversations around the music itself. So maybe you've submitted a demo, maybe they are interested in taking it forward. At that point, it's a really good time to ask what the deal is. So some things you should be looking out for is what the royalty split is. So you'll see a whole range of different numbers in this category. The fairest in my mind, if you are an individual artist and you're working with a label, typically 50-50 is fair and a good place to start with. Some labels will take slightly less, which is great for you. Some will take more. If they take more than that, the question really needs to be, okay, what are you getting for that? Do they have a very significant number of playlists that you are essentially guaranteeing your music will get into? Do they have a very proven track record of getting into editorial playlists? And as such, even if you're only getting 30-40%, that's going to be a significant step up from what you're able to achieve yourself. And to be honest, that should even be the case on a 50-50 split. Make sure that the label that you're working with has a proven track record of being able to achieve significant streaming traction. Another thing to be aware of is some labels will take recoupments before you get paid. And typically this will be that they will cover their costs for artwork, mastering, promotional assets, for example, out of your revenues before you get paid. Now, I personally don't like that model, but I understand how for some labels it can make sense. But if you sign over your music to a label who have recoupments built in to their contract, be aware that it might be quite some time before you see any revenues, and make sure you are super clear on how much they are talking about in terms of dollar value of these recoupments. And if the contract says something like, we will recoup our costs for mastering, ask the question, well, what are we talking about? Are we talking about $15 or $100? Same for promotional assets, same for artwork. What are we talking about? And if there are collaborators involved, how is that split? So asking those questions is absolutely fair game up front. Make sure you are super clear on those. And if there are recoupments involved, make sure you feel comfortable with that before moving forward. Another question that you should ask is what the term length is. Now, this should be in the contract, but some contracts are as long as 20, 25, 30 years, even longer. That is a long time to sign your music over without even having a chance of getting it back. You might also find labels who have a much shorter contract length, but then that rolls over if everyone is essentially happy with the status quo. I prefer that model. Again, this is a personal preference thing, but make sure that you are clear on how long things like term length are within the contract. And then, are the label providing any other benefits to you above and beyond streaming? So are they providing access to licensing opportunities that you would not have access to yourself? Do they have a publishing arm where they're able to register your tracks there and recoup those publishing royalties potentially in an even better way than you are able to yourself? There is a very long list here of what different labels can offer. And honestly, it's why I do recommend to all artists to try to work with multiple different labels over the course of a few years so that you get access to the different promotional opportunities that they have. But when you are starting to work with a new label that you haven't worked with before, make sure you are super clear on the terms of the deal, what they're able to offer as a label, and what they have a track record of being able to achieve. Now, all of this is assuming that you have an opportunity with a label that you are interested in taking further. If you are not yet in that position, but you are interested in working with different independent labels, here are a few tips for submitting your music to them. So firstly, pretty much every label will have a specific way they prefer to receive music. Check out their website or social media channels. You should be able to find what they prefer. If there's no demo policy or details kind of obviously available, message them. Ask the question, how would you prefer to receive a demo? And are you open to demos? We receive so many demos in ways that make it harder for us to be able to listen to them effectively. On our website, there is a clear description of how we would prefer to receive demos so that we can send them around to our review team in an easy and efficient way. And when you are about to send your music to a label, triple check that it is indeed the style of music that they seem to be releasing at this point in time. Labels change, so even if they did release something 4, 5, 6 years ago which had a similar feel, if they haven't released something in that style for a long time, perhaps that's not what they're looking for right now. So do your research, make sure that you are submitting to labels who absolutely meet the style of music that you are writing. If in doubt, ask a friend, or at the very least try to be as objective as possible as you can be with your own music when you are assessing it versus the music that a label releases. And assume that they have received your demo. Sometimes a chaser email is a good idea, but if you have sent a chaser email and you still haven't received a response, assume that it's not the right fit. That's okay. Keep working on your craft. Keep building up your profile, and over time there will be labels who are interested in what you are creating. And that leads really nicely on to what, as a label, we would be looking for in artists that we take on. Because it's not just about the music. It's a lot about the music, of course, the style of the music and the fit with our label and how good it is absolutely paramount to whether we are interested. But if this is an artist who has never released anything else on DSPs, we have demos coming through from artists who don't have a profile on Spotify. It is hard for us to justify taking that artist on because we just don't know whether they are committed for the long term. So you do have to do your own work, which is again why I recommend having a mix of independent and label and collaborative releases and proving that you are releasing music on a regular basis. If you do that, labels will see that there is momentum behind this project. This artist takes his craft or her craft seriously to the point where, hey, this is a worthwhile investment of our time, our money, our resources in signing this release. Like I said before, labels are a fantastic part of the puzzle for you as an independent artist. Now, when I've been speaking about this, I have been focusing here on independent labels, and my knowledge is fairly focused on the ambient music sphere. And so my experience and what I'm saying here relates primarily to the ambient music world. There are, of course, many other genres out there where the independent label scene may look a little bit different. So just beware of those differences if you are releasing music outside of the ambient music genre. I would also caveat all of this by saying there are some larger labels, and they are still technically independent, but they have a much larger presence, who may require things like exclusivity on an artist level. Now, that is a huge decision to make, and one which goes beyond the scope of this course. But what I would say is, if you get to that point in your career where it makes sense to essentially put all your eggs in one basket and say, this label fully aligns with my vision for my music and they can provide everything I need as an artist to fully commit to my vision for my music, then that might be a wise call. But it will likely be a good number of years before you get to that point and your artist project is essentially at a size that is interesting for one of these larger style labels to take on and fully push ahead with on a exclusive level. Every label is different, and the experience of working with different labels is different, and that's a wonderful thing. And over time, you will likely find a handful, maybe even 1 or 2 labels who you prefer working with just for the experience of working with them and or what they are able to provide you as an artist. Work with multiple labels. It's a great way of understanding what the opportunities are, seeing how different people with a lot of experience of the industry do things, and that in turn can positively impact your independent releases and your independent musical journey.
There it is, our preview of Ben's All Ambient Labs course, Music Business 101. I hope that info on working with indie labels was helpful to you. I know it is to me. And that is the entire goal of the All Ambient Labs series, is to give you a leg up on the information, to give you a shortcut, if you will, to save you some of the time and the headaches that the Ben and myself and all of us have gone through kind of figuring things out over the years and years, and to be able to help you just catalyze what you are trying to do as an artist. Whether it's on the production side, whether it's on the business side, whether it's on just trying to invoke new lanes of creativity or dial in a specific sound, or just kind of work with a template for a song from start to finish, and a whole bunch of other things. We've got a lot to explore in the All Ambient Labs world. Again, head to the link in the show notes. There is a launch price on Ben's Music Business 101 course right now that you can get the course at, which is discounted from what it will regularly be at. And if you use the code BENLAUNCH, that is a special code just for our All Ambient podcast listeners and viewers, for our Discord community, Ben Launch will get you an additional 20% off of the launch price. So you're not going to want to miss it. It's only around for a short while. Make sure you jump on it before it disappears. Once its sale is gone, it's gone. But regardless, I know you're not going to regret it. Jump on in. We've got some great conversations between the 4 people at the All Ambient Roundtable in the near future. We got some great interviews coming up, some wonderful stuff here at the All Ambient podcast in just a little bit. So thank you as always for tuning in. Here's hoping that this music and the hearts behind it make your day and your life that much better. We'll see you next time.